Yo, yo,
Hello,
yo.
listeners.
God damn. Got it done.
Oh, too excited.
Nah, you can go ahead.
No, that's all good. We're going right back into our 1997 albums, and this is basically going to be the part two to the video that you may or may not have just come from. Um, and maybe it's all going to be one video. You'll figure that out when you're watching it. So, without any further ado, all the explanation was in the last video. I'll send a link right there. And I would like for you to go ahead and give us your favorite album of 1997.
All right, my favorite album of 1997. To me, it is the number one. It's the best. I think it's the best debut album of all time. I think it's the best self-titled album of all time. I mean, I think it's I've ranked my favorite albums, and it's been a while, but I would have to say this is like number 3 or 4. It's up there. I'm gonna say it's 3. This is one of, I swear to God, the most perfect album. One of the most perfect albums of all time. Like, just from top to bottom, fucking heat after heat after heat. There's big hits on there, and they're all fucking bangers. They all get played to this day. It's none other than the debut album, the first Third Eye Blind album. Big shout out my boy Ben McGahee, who would come to find out when we worked at the DC together that this is one of his top 5 favorite albums of all time as well. So we had a big bonding experience on that. I mean, where do I start, dude? Like, this album, like I said, it's perfect. There's not a bad spot on here. It's phenomenal. You start the album off with losing a whole year. Like, holy shit. Just the way it comes in is like, losing all, oh yeah. And I remember me and you used to spend all goddamn day in bed. Losing all, oh yeah. It's just perfect to bring in an album, especially this album. Also, like, wonderful opener. Can't get enough of it, man. Like, just, you know, nothing bad. You go into the second song, Narcolepsy, which is just another heater, just right off the rip. It's like, fuck, dude. They are just going after it. Narcolepsy, like I said, dude, the songwriting on this album is just out of this world. Like, everything, like, there's songs on here, outside of the hits, even like everybody can find a song that they like. Everybody can find a song they relate to. I mean, it's just like, like I said, man, everything about it is just perfect. It's like Narcolepsy, and like, it's, I don't even know. Like, of course, most people know Third Eye Blind, I'm sure, and the hits, and it's like, to explain them, I don't know. I guess it's just, I mean, to call them alternative, like, alternative has a very broad definition now. Like, there's not, like, if it's different than normal shit, like, they just think it's alternative. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if you just call it alt rock, or, you might have a better way to describe, because I mean, obviously you've listened to this album. Um,
I mean, you pretty much hit the nail right on the head. Like alt rock, I mean, at the very most, like maybe power pop,
yeah,
but like, I don't. I don't know if I'd even call it that. Like just this whole album itself is just. I mean, it inspired Avril Lavigne to Avril Lavigne all over the place.
Yeah.
So
It pretty much just made a wave. Like it impacted the world of music like nothing else. Like at that point, it was just like it brought in what was it was a big foreshadowing what was about to happen, and like just how they changed the landscape, and like it's still reviewed like it's still looked at as one of the best albums of all time. You know, it's especially in like musician realm, like you know, because everything is just like it's just a perfect album. Like the whole music, everything, the songwriting, the guitars, like Steven's voice, like everything is just it was just turned up to 11, man. Like everything just came out so well. Um, Especially being the first album, like the production, the sound, everything they got on it was kind of insane. Just coming out of nowheres, and then they just throw this heat at you. It's like, damn. But then you got after narcolepsy, you have Semi Charmed Life, which is one of the probably the one of the biggest misconstrued songs of all time, or misheard. Like a lot of people might have thought it was just a happy song, or loving song, whatever. No, it's just talking about doing crystal meth and fucking.
that's right.
But even though it's talking about meth and fucking, it's still one of the best songs about like I don't know how you can't call it one of the best songs, like one of the best pop songs of all time. Like it it just holds up to this day. Like as soon as you hear that that you hear that drum fill, and then you hear I'm back and I'm humming. It's living. It's coming. It's leaves from me. A leaves of emancipation. Oh, what motivation. She comes down and she goes down on me. I'll never talk to you. They're like, whatever. Fuck, man. Like, that shit just gets me going. It gets, like, even hearing it 10 million times, it still gets you it just puts you in there. When you hear it, you're like, man, this shit's.
Fun fact: this song was conceived after the singer Stephen Jenkins witnessed his friends using crystal meth at a Primus concert. So it all ties back into Primus.
The 90s is promise.
Yep, that's right. They invented 1990. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, well, then we had then you go into probably the biggest song of the, well, I don't know. Semi Charmed Life might be the biggest. Yeah, I don't. This is a close This is a very close second, if anything. But it's Jumper. I wish you would jump back from that ledge, my friend, so we could cut ties with all the lies that you've been living in. And if you think about would be young, how would I do that? Dude, like, what a fucking. And it's honestly, it's probably my least favorite song on the album. And it's not because it's been played 100,000 times. Like, it is an awesome song. It's, I don't know. Like, it is a great song, but to me, it's the weakest part of the album. And especially what it's surrounded by and like what's to come. It's just like, okay, like it is. Obviously, it's a big hit. It catches your eyes. It's like very catchy. It's poppy, but like it just shows you how great this album is. Because the next song is "Graduate," which just gets you fucking jumping, bro. I don't know what else to tell you about that song. Not graduate, like, dude, man. This, like, to me, this is when it just starts getting hot. This is when the album, and that's crazy to say. I think it just gets better. Like, this is when it hits another gear because, like, the songs that I've already listed off is like the first five songs, like Losing a Whole Year, Narcolepsy, Semi Charm Life, Jumper, and Graduate. It's like, brother, you put that on any 5 songs, like you put those 5 songs on a fucking 12-song album, and that's a goddamn like a greatest hit, like that.
Yeah.
Like that puts you into like top 20 album of all time, and like we're just getting started on this bitch. um and then it goes into another one of their biggest hits, How's It Gonna Be, which was on obviously a bunch of 90s movies and stuff, because it was like a melodramatic, heartbreak song or whatever. Which, dude, that song, it holds up to this day. It is still a fantastic song, even being played millions of times. Like, how's it gonna be? Like, dude, Steven's vocals on this, that, like, he is a very underrated singer, in my opinion. Like, just how he changes on this song, it's like they're slow, and it's like, he's got like slow, like drawn out vocals, like scratchy shit that it's like, very hype, dude. Like, that motherfucker has, right? Like, when he starts hitting them high notes, sounds like damn dog whistle shit. It's like, brother, what are you doing? Like,
It's something.
like shit gets carried away. Um, but then this, I'm telling you, it just starts. Here comes, as our Lord and Savior Seamus would say, bangers after banger after banger.
Mm.
We have Thanks a Lot. Shoo! Fucking brother, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. If you haven't heard that, stop what you're doing right now and listen to it. Like, Thanks a Lot is one of the best, dude. What a great song. Um, a sleeper, a big time sleeper on this is track 8, Burning Man. It's a very, like, it is a slower song. It's like, I don't know how to explain exactly what it is. It's like, I mean, it's a very chill, like, that's a lot of their songs too on this album. It's like chill, but they are upbeat. Like, I don't, like, it's a chill song, of course, until the chorus and the distortions on the guitars kick in, like everything, and it does pick up. Um, ooh, one of the best to me, like, might be their best, like, melodramatic ballad. Would be Good For You. Man, what a song this is! Like, it's it is arranged perfectly. Like, Good For You is one of the best. Like, it's one of the most heartfelt songs. Like, it'll get you, like, listening to it. You'll get in your feels about it. Just what it's go. I don't know. Just the whole vibe of the song. Oh man, God, I could go on about Good For You. That, and I don't know. Don't try to get me to pick my favorite song off this album, because I really could. I've never thought about it because I love all of them. But I guess if I had to pick one, like, that would probably be it in this very exact moment. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It picks up, gets to the chorus. It's just like, because all I want to do is be there, things that you're going through. Well, is it good for you? Is it good for you? Dude, it's like, God, I'm telling y'all, like, the glazing for this album is out of this world. Like, I don't know, like, I could just go on about it. I just, that was why, like, me and Ben, like, when we, found out that each other loved this album, it was like, it hit a spot, it just hit a spark with us, and we're like, latched onto it. It's like, oh yeah, like, because there's something about this album, like, when you find it in a time in life, and like, it's because, like, it could still happen, like, anybody growing up, like, people listening, like, if you haven't listened to this album, like, you could find it right now, dig into it, and like it'll leave an impression like on your life, and when you go back and listen to it, you'll be like, holy hell, like this album is just like you could get into it and get into a hole with it and listen to it for months and then be like years down the road get back and be like, holy shit, like it takes me right where I was. Like this, this album just hits, like it's perfect. It doesn't age, like it ages like wine. Like it doesn't get bad. It just like it really shows like what they were doing for music and like at that time. And then like the hits on the album, I believe, like kind of stamp what the time was. But then what they like like the other tracks, the deep cuts, so to speak, is like I feel like those stand for what they were doing, like what they were going to do for the future of music, for the next 15, 20 years. Like,
Oh,
dude,
absolutely.
it's just, it's fucking phenomenal. Perfect. And then track 10, one of my favorites, London. Um, all I'll say about London, like, besides, like I said, this whole album's perfect. All these songs are awesome. I'm trying not to get into like repeat myself so much on that shit, but like I'll point out my favorite parts or something of these songs, whatever, just high points I get like highlighted. London, the fucking guitar riff, dude, throughout the whole song, just fucking phenomenal. Like Kevin Codigan was just that dude was writing some hella fucking riffs on this shit. And like London, you turn it on, and as soon as you hear that riff, you're like, damn, dude. Like it'll suck you right in, especially if you're a guitar head and you're like, you like them catchy riffs and stuff. Like that's it for you. Of course, then another one of their you know melodramatic ballads, love song, whatever. I guess if you call it a love song, but I Want You. What a damn, what a powerful song, man. Like it's one of those. It's like there's a lot of this album. Like you listen to these songs and then like it'll put you in a trance. Like you just turn it on, like it'll just take you for a ride that you're about to go on, regardless if you want to or not. Like it's that, like it just sucks you in and just takes you everywhere. And like this is one of those. The background is very similar to I Want You, like kind of the same style, like just being in the background of life, dude. It's fucking phenomenal song. Like I think the songwriting on the last, these last four songs, like I Want You, the background, some of the most, like some of the best songwriting to me, in my opinion. Um, and then you got track 13, motorcycle drive by, which is not a hit, I would say, but it's like a very like a fan favorite. A lot of people draw to this song. Like it's a very powerful song. It's like I don't know. Like honestly, you could have just like if it wasn't for the album closure. If it wasn't for the album closure, this could have been the fucking perfect way to end it out. Like in any kind of album, like Motorcycle Drive By is fucking great. And like I said, it's a fan favorite. But like if you're just like a casual Third Eye Blind fan, or like trying to get into them or like curious about them, like this is a song that kind of shows you what they are, like what they are as a band overall. And I don't know. I feel like it's a very good song to get your feet wet with them. And like if you want to, like I said, if you want to know more about besides the hits, Motorcycle Drive By is just great. Um, but then the last song on the album to end it, like I said, Motorcycle Drive By would have been the perfect closure for any other expense, but The way they chose to end this album with God of Wine, whew, man, what a
Fucking banger.
dude, what a way to close it out. Like to have this perfect album top to bottom, and then to have that as the closing song is fucking crazy. Like even now, to like even to this day, it's like, dude, it's a, it's like I don't know, like I'm almost fucking speechless. Even though I've went on about it, it's like I'm almost speechless. Just like how fucking good this album was. Like really, it shouldn't have been. Like looking back, you're like you wouldn't think because if you just like you look at their hits and stuff and like how they popular they were, it's like yeah, like some good hit, blah blah blah, like mainstream success. But like this album is like you wouldn't think necessarily just hearing them like the hits and being like yeah, you wouldn't think this was like this album should have been as good as it was, but it really fucking is. Like it, it is that heavy of an album, and heavy like not necessarily not on the sound like heavy metal like hard shit, but like heavy on the heart. Like dude, it is like I'm telling you, pound for pound, one of the best albums. Like it's one of mine, and we might do a list like like top 10 like deserted island albums, like you know albums you if you hit like if you were stranded and like you had to have with you. Like I said, this one is on there for me easily. Number three. Like it's to me, there's only two better albums, like more perfect albums in life than this. Like that's how fucking. And I don't know. It might be just. It might. I don't know. It can't just be me because like everybody that's ever dug deep on this album that I've ever talked to about it with, they feel the same. Like everybody's like, yeah, it's like it's no, it's that fucking good. Like
No, it's perfect. Like it's one of the few albums I can actually agree. Like this is definitely like if you'd have not mentioned it, I would have. Um, it is top to bottom just perfect. I know it's a big hit, but "How's It Gonna Be" is one of the most gut wrenching songs you've ever heard. Like really, there's you can really say that about a lot of the songs they've done on this album, but like "How's It Gonna Be" has a special place in my heart. Um, yeah, like that's one of the reasons I was so quiet on this because pretty much everything you said, you took the words right out of my mouth. Like this album truly is perfect top to bottom
yeah,
and one of the best albums of the 90s and ever.
I
But
mean, it really is. I mean, it's
do I
just
even have to ask you what your rating is?
I don't know. It's fucking 27. It's 50-11 out of 10.
Yeah, like I figured it's like 10 out of 10 doesn't do it justice. Like this really is one of the
Yeah,
best
no.
albums ever made.
And like I said, it's not just me. Like Trevor said, like even Trevor says it's a perfect out. Like you listen, like if you just listen to it a few times, like you don't even have to listen to it a few times. You can listen to it once and understand what the fuck it's about. But like you listen to people who have dug deep on this, like who have listened to it, you know, the general consensus to people who have heard this album is it's one of the best albums to ever hit the shelves. Like it's fucking crazy just how good it is.
Absolutely. It's just honestly like again, you've pretty much said everything I would have said about this album, if not more, because I would say you're definitely the bigger Third Eye Blind fan than me. And not that I don't like them. I want that to be very well known among the people listening. I love this band, but this is one of Harley's like top 10 bands ever, if not top five. So, with that said,
I would say as
absolute,
far as bands, I would say probably they're up there like just for this album alone. Like I do like Blue and I like Chris Ursa Major. Like they have some great albums. But like I would say Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably they probably would be like top 15. I would say, like, if we was just mentioning this album alone, like they might sneak in the top 10. Like that's how fucking good this album is. Like it's
No,
that
it's
damn good.
beautiful album. It's perfect, honestly. But with that said, we are going into what I feel like is my personal favorite album that came out in 1997, and surprise, surprise, it's Primus. And
I didn't know you
yeah,
liked them.
who'd have thunk it? Yeah, you ever heard of Primus? But no, we're going to be talking about what a lot of people say is the weakest album they ever made. And honestly, this album might be my favorite album from them. The second album they ever recorded at Les Claypool's at home studio, Rancho Relaxo in Sebastopol, California. This was the first album where Tim Alexander was not the drummer. And that hurts me, as a massive Herb fan. He's one of my two favorite drummers ever. Um, and in my opinion, one of the two best drummers to ever live. But one thing Primus has never had is a bad drummer, and they've never had anything less than an excellent drummer. But Brian Mantia, also known as Brain, was the drummer on this album. And of course, we're talking about the Brown album. And the reason they called it that is it was a milestone for him because, they were going to break up when Herb decided to leave the band because he was off doing music with his band Laundry, another fantastic band. If you've never listened to their music, I highly recommend it. Because Herb's playing drums and singing, and he's actually got a really good voice. Like, you'd be surprised. But with that being said, this is a milestone record for Primus because with Herb leaving, doing his own thing, they needed a drummer, and it was either get a drummer or quit Primus. So they decided on the former, and they wound up getting Brian Mantia. So that's why milestone record for them. Um, just like the White album from Metallica and the Black album from, or the White album from the Beatles and the Black album from Metallica. I'm sorry. They figured they would just be like, fuck it, let's meet in the middle. It's the Brown album. And another reason they called it that is, according to Brain himself, the album was called that because of the way they actually recorded it. The mixes were done super unconventionally, and the whole band has described it as a muffled turd of an album, hence the album title being the Brown album. This is Tom Waits' favorite Primus album because it's just of how dirty it sounds. But with no further ado, it goes into the return of Sathington Willoughby, which again, you don't want to look too deep into Primus's like lyricism because they're not really trying to write a song that's going to make you cry. They're trying to write songs for themselves, which I highly respect in any musician. But the way they did it on this album, they just stripped everything bare and they just tackled it full head of steam. And you can see that with this Return of Sathington Willoughby. And right after that, it goes into one of my favorite songs from this album, Fisticuffs, which is an ass beater of a song. The bass in this song, as it's going to be a very recurring theme, and I'm just going to say this now for pretty much the entire album. This is some of the best bass work Les ever did. It is some of the best bass work he ever put to record. Fisticuffs is a fantastic bass line, even as simple as it is. Golden Boy, if you want to go to a more complex song, just instrumentally, it's much shorter, a minute and a half shorter, but Golden Boy is another insane bass line. And the guitar work from Lur is just fantastic. Um, the drums are also, again, in my opinion, I don't think Herb is a worse drummer than Mantia, but neither one of them are bad. So I mean, really, like whatever like drummer era you're listening to of Primus, even if you're listening to the original lineup, which is Les Claypool, Jay Lane, and Todd Huth, um, the drummer and guitarist, respectfully, of the original version of Primus from the '80s before he got Lur and Herb involved. They started a band called Sausage, and I highly recommend that album as well. If I'm not mistaken, it came out in like '95 or '96, sometime in that area. And you got songs like "Girls for Single Men" on there, and it's still very Primus in nature. Um, With that said, it goes into Over the Falls, which is one of my favorite songs on the album and probably the farthest away from what you would say is their quote unquote normal sound, if you can even say that they've ever had a normal sound. But it almost comes off as kind of like, just I mean, Lur's on a damn like either it's like an acoustic or a resonator guitar, and Mantia's got like a three-piece drum kit, and Les is on a stand-up bass, and it comes off kind of like country-ish. I'm not gonna call it country, but it does have that kind of a twang to it. Um, right after that, it goes into one of Les's best bass lines, just objectively, with "Shake Hands with Beef." Which no, the song's not about jacking off. It's about apparently it's about a vegan who every now and then would have a cheeseburger and he would say, "Well, it's time to shake hands with beef." And that's where they got the name of the song from. But lyrically, again, you don't want to look too deep into the lyrics because they're not making music to tell anything other than a fun, goofy, or creepy story. But it's made for musicians and themselves. And Shake Hands with Beef is a great example of that. And I wouldn't quite call it metal, but this is definitely one of the highlights as far as like Brain's drumming on this album. It's just fantastic drumming throughout the entirety of the song. Right after that, it starts to get weird, but really, really damn good. Camelback Cinema is another just ass beater of a bass line from Les. Um, right after that goes into Hats Off, which is the shortest song on the album by quite a bit. There's only one song on the album that's under 2.5 minutes long, and it's this one at 1 minute and 57 seconds. Right after that, it goes into Puddin'Tane, which that's probably my favorite song on the album is Puddin'Tane. Um, just absolute ripper of a guitar line from Lur. Um, the drums are just they're very esoteric in nature, but they're just insane drum work from Brain. And I don't even have to talk about what Les is doing because you already know Les is doing less things. Um, Bob's Party Time Lounge is one of the stranger cuts on the album, but definitely one of my favorites. It's more of a story, kind of a narration of going to a party, and kind of like a party or a club or whatever you interpret from the song. It's just basically kind of like imagine if a club was ran by like a circus presenter, and that's essentially what the song gives me the vibes of. Duchess and the Proverbial Mind Spread is track 10, and Jesus Christ, what a song it is. It's a bit slower than the rest of the album, but still just insane as a whole. Rest in Bones, fantastic song. I highly recommend Rest in Bones because even out of like the deeper cuts on this album, it's one of the more accessible ones. Coddingtown, which I wouldn't say was a hit, but is definitely a fan favorite among the Primus fans, myself included. One of the first, if I'm not mistaken, it's him using an upright bass with a bow. So he's kind of treating it more like, a cello. And of course, if it's in the low registry, Les can play it. It doesn't matter what it is. I was going to say four strings, but no. I mean, the man's known for having six-string fretless basses on some of the biggest songs they ever had. So that would be kind of selling him short on strings and talent. But it's also, it's really fast-paced for it being, like an upright bass with a bow led song. Um, very like it has a very chugging guitar riff throughout, and they're kind of going back into their thrash metal bag because, as previously stated on the 1991 album, and as well as just Lur as a whole, when I was talking about him on the top 10 guitarist, Lur pretty much invented death metal. That's a little known fact about him, and unless you're a fan of the band, then you probably already knew that. Lur was in Possessed, which was one of the, if not the first death metal band ever, and he was in the original lineup. And death metal is obviously accentuated by the growling vocals and just the absolutely spastic guitar that you get in it. And Counting Town is kind of him going back to that bag because him and Lur, or him and Les, wound up meeting in Blind Illusion, which is a kind of a, they're a sleeper thrash band, I would say. They're not like on the level of the big four, but they're definitely, you're missing out if you're not checking their music out, especially the Les and Lur years. It's amazing work from them. But it goes right after that. It goes into Kalamazoo, which is another fantastic song. And again, it's got that goofy storytelling from Les, which is a common theme. Which is a common theme throughout not only this album but just their entire discography. And right after that, it goes into the Chastising of Renegade, which is another one of my favorite albums. And really, after that, it's Arnie, which is just a wonderful closer to an already wonderful album. And this album itself, it was fully produced by Primus. It was engineered by Les Claypool. They did have a coordinator in Jill Rose and a studio assistant in Tim Solian. This album peaked at 21 on the Billboard Top 200, which I think is like, it's one of their top 5 best selling albums they ever had. It was huge in Finland. Um, it was pretty big in Australia as well. And I mean, there's not many things else I can add to it other than it's got a very unique sound to them, even for it being a Primus sound. I mean, every one of their albums sounds different, but each one of those albums kind of sounds a bit the same throughout, but like it's different enough song to song that you're not going to get bored. It's surprisingly accessible for what the album is. It's very bass centric as most of their music is, but it's like a mix between like jazz and funk and psychedelic music and prog rock and, Primus, which I would say one of the few bands in the world that I can probably consider them as their own genre because I can't think of any band that sounds anything remotely close to them other than them. And then they just do whatever the hell they want with it. But out of songs on this album, the most accessible is probably Over the Falls. Although, if you were just to listen to this song and then assume the rest of the album sounds like that, you would be dead wrong. For a more accurate representation of that and still being accessible, I would say either Golden Boy or Shake Hands with Beef are your two best options. Fisticuffs is another fantastic example, but it's a little less accessible than Golden Boy and Shake Hands with Beef. And I mean, it's a 10 out of 10 to me. I can't think of a Primus album. I mean, maybe Pork Soda, that wouldn't be a 10 out of 10, at least from their 90s work, and maybe the Antipop, but I mean, that's still probably an album I'm going to talk about when we get to 99. And it's just a wonderfully put together album. Not to sound like a broken record, but definitely some of Les's best bass work because it seems like every album, even though Primus is definitely known for being a band that pretty much has a lead bassist essentially, and Lur is not even putting like a rhythmic melody down, but more so just like something that's something. It's like something that nobody else can be able to do because you can't just you can't play along with Les. You can't try to match him note for note, not on a skill level, but it just wouldn't sound right. You need layers to that, and Lur is one of the best layering guitarists on earth, and just one of the best guitarists of all time, in my opinion. I mean, again, going back to what I was saying, like if you invented death metal, props to you. Like, and then you went on to have one of the most successful funk metal bands of all time, if not the most successful funk metal band, all things considered. Um, because funk rock and funk metal are not the same. Let's just go ahead and set that straight right now.
Oh yeah, very different.
Very, very different. Funk rock, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Funk metal, Ugly Kid Joe, Primus, early Faith No More. Very, very, very early Stone Temple Pilots. Like I don't even think they were going by Stone Temple Pilots when they were still doing funk metal. But absolutely a must check out album if you are a musician. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. It's like the more I look at this track listing, the more I'm thinking, yeah, it's probably my favorite Primus album, and I I don't even know what else to add to that.
I mean, dude, it's a great album. Like, of course, I know it's a little different. Like, Promise is one of those bands where it's like you either fuck with them or you don't. You know.
Yeah, there's no in between. Nobody's like, yeah, Primus is okay. They either suck or they suck.
Yeah.
That's probably a good way to put it.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I can't disagree with you, man. Like, this album is fucking like. So, you think you're untouchable? Word
Yeah.
life. That's about what this album is. Like, dude.
Mm.
Like, and I swear to God, like, if I had to, like, the high point. I mean, any of the songs, like you like Puddin' Tane, dude. Like, you can't fuck with that shit, man.
No.
Like everything's great, but if I had to pick one, because there's always a song that's like, yeah, go listen to this, and get your idea of Promise or get your idea of like Less or Lure or something. But like on this album, oh shit, I just yawned. Don't edit that. People need to know I'm tired. I will say
Mm.
that like Over the Falls is still one of my favorite Primus songs. Probably my probably my favorite Les bass line. Something about it, man, like Over the Falls is just so fucking good.
And not a bad choice as one of the best bass lines he ever did because, like, again, talking about like what we were talking about with Kenny on the 1996 episode, this one of his more simple bass lines,
Oh yeah.
but it just sticks in your ear. Like it's an earworm of a bass line. And once you hear that song, whether you like it or not, it's going to be stuck in your head.
Yep.
It's definitely one of Primus's more catchy songs.
And that's
But,
like you said, what we was talking about, like simplicity of music,
mhm.
really does something to you. Like, I don't know.
But with that being said, to the albums that didn't quite make the cut, I'm going to go ahead and start with mine. I've got six here that I feel like are still worth mentioning, but didn't quite make that top five. Um, "Come On Over" by Shania Twain. As rarely as I talk about country, this song has 12 fucking singles. Okay, like or this album has 12 singles. Like I don't really know like what else like that's undeniably good. And just to go through them real quick, "Love Gets Me Every Time," "Don't Be Stupid," "You Know I Love You," "You're Still the One," fantastic song. "From This Moment On," "When," "Honey, I'm Home." "That Don't Impress Me Much," which is one of the biggest hits she put out, and then the biggest hit she put out, arguably, "Man, I Feel Like a Woman." Dun, 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 dun. Right into "You've Got a Way," "Come On Over," which title track, fantastic song, "Rock This Country," and "I'm Holding On to Love to Save My Life." And if I'm not mistaken, each and every single one of those 12 songs was like a top 20 hit. I think probably a good quarter of them were number one hits. One of the biggest country albums of all time. Fantastic. Right in after that, we got to go into "Super Duper Fly" from Missy Elliott. And if you're from the South, you understand what kind of effect Missy Elliott had on hip hop as a whole. "The Rain," which is Super Duper Fly, "Sock It To Me," "Beat Me 911," "Hit 'Em With the He," and those are the four big hits from the album. With that being said, without Missy Elliott, you really wouldn't have a Lil Wayne. which is kind of weird to think about, but that's stylistically speaking his favorite rapper of all time. And when you listen to his music, you can definitely tell. Right after that, it goes into the last album, that what I consider the last album that the Notorious B.I.G. put out, which is Life After Death. Fantastic hip hop album. Hypnotize, Mo Money, Mo Problems, Sky's the Limit / Going Back to Cali. I mean, it's just like undeniably great album. And if you haven't listened to this album, please do. It is a posthumous release from Biggie, and it was released 16 days, like two weeks and 2 days after he was murdered. Um, R.I.P. Biggie. Right after that, it goes into another hip hop album that I'm quite a big fan of, Wu Tang Forever, which spawned one of the most iconic songs they ever did, Triumph, as well as It's Yours and Reunited. Um, Absolutely wonderful song, especially in Triumph. I mean, one of the best opening lines in hip hop history, I bomb atomically. And just goes into it after that. Inspector Deck is definitely my favorite member of Wu Tang, and this song is a big part of that reason. Um, right after that, it goes into two more albums, and I'll keep them quick. Days of the New, self titled debut album from 1997, also known as Orange or Yellow, or the Orange or Yellow album. Has Touch, Peel, and Stand, The Downtown, Shelf in the Room. I mean, hits, big hits. And definitely, like me and Harley has talked about this before, Days of the New might be the heaviest acoustic band ever. And because when we were in a band, we would play like the riffs to these songs, like with distortion, and it's just like, good lord, like they were on to something. And not to mention, I'm pretty sure the singer was like 16 when this album came out.
Yeah,
So
no, 17 maybe
yeah, he
at
was.
the oldest.
They were children. Like they were children coming up with this shit, sounding like grown ass men. And the last album in my honorable mentions, it's got to be The Color and the Shape by the Foo Fighters. This is the album. Like if their self titled debut didn't put them on the map, this absolutely did. Between Monkey Ranch, My Hero, Walking After You, Everlong, not a bad song on this album, but yeah, just fantastic songs throughout. And with that being said, we're going to swing it over to old Hogmaster for his honorable mentions.
Well, you stole uh you stole the one I needed the most. The Foo Fighters, The
I'm
Color of the
sorry.
Shape. Uh, dude, I don't like the Foo
We can
man.
both talk
What
about it.
a
I mean,
great album,
you really introduced me to them, so
dude. That whole album is just, hey Johnny Park, my poor brain wind up like up in arms, dude. Like the shit you don't hear on the radio. Just February stars. Good lord, dude. Like
hmm
this whole, I'm telling you, like this was so close to being on my top five. Like it barely missed it. Dude, that's what like this is the album that really, that got them, like Trevor said, in the mainstream. Like you couldn't escape the Foo Fighters. I mean, they were just, what an awesome album. I love it. Like one of my favorites. But once again, Foo Fighters are to me like one of them bands that like they keep getting better and better, and like I don't think they've like, well, they just, I don't know, their albums just keep getting better. Like they just keep evolving, and everything everything just keeps getting better. But son of a bitch, um, fucking yawning out here. My second honorable mention is Our Lady Peace with their essential album Clumsy, which if you haven't heard Our Lady Peace, you
yeah,
know,
you have.
yeah, shame on you, because that's Chris Benoit's theme song, baby. But like, if you dude, Our Lady P, like, you know, I can't say that I've went back and like listened to all their. I've like dipped and dabbed on like the first four albums, but like this album, I've listened to a bunch. Like this is a really good album. Like, and I never knew nothing about them. Like, it's crazy. Okay, so like, for some reason it never. Obviously, when you're younger, and watch wrestling and like listen to music, like, a lot of people are like, yeah, that just, like you think when you were a kid or, early teenage, like you just thought they were like the wrestler were singing their own theme song or, it was just Jim Johnson doing everything. Like, I swear to God, I didn't know until like 3 years, I don't know. I didn't know until a few years back, like that Our Lady Peace was who did Chris Benoit's theme song.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, holy shit, when I started listening to it again, I'm like, dude, it's a fucking banger. Like, even though like the whole context of like people making memes with it,
Their
you know,
bassist is phenomenal, and you can definitely tell that on whatever.
oh
Which
yeah, like
I know that's the forbidden song, but
yeah,
like the bass on that song is absolutely just ripping throughout, damn near funky.
oh yeah, like it's great. It's like it's kind of insane. I don't know. Everything is just kind of wild how that was because like I don't know. My uncle got me into these guys. Like this album, I'm telling you, Clumsy is definitely an album to go back and listen to. Like Superman's Dead, Automatic Flowers, Carnival, Big Dumb Rocket. 4 a.m. is a great song. The title track, Let You Down, Car Crash. Dude, it's like, it really is it's a solid ass album. Um, I'd recommend it. Like, if you're into alternative, like, I guess if you like, I don't know, like, Our Lady Peace to me is like, if Radiohead was good, that's what they would have been. Uh, like, honestly,
Gotta
in
fully
my
agree with
opinion,
you
that's
on.
how I feel. That's how I feel about them. Now I have to say, this next one is Trevor's favorite band. This is their what was this? The third album, fourth album. It is their fourth album from the Offspring. NXA on the Hombre. Like, I know, like, Trevor's not a big, he doesn't like the Offspring, and I mean, I'm not just a huge Offspring fan. I like them, but this album, now but this album I love. Like, it's the best music they ever wrote. Honestly, it's like it's a really the only hit like the really the only hit on here I know is "Gone Away." Yeah, that'd be the only one. That was "Gone Away," which that's a huge song. But yeah, they I don't know. I've always liked that. Like I put NXA on the Hombre on there. Um, I don't know if I had to pick a few more. I don't know. There's some down in here somewhere. Fuck it. I'm sure there's a Pavement album somewhere we can throw in. Because for some reason, I don't even know what the fuck they are. I've never listened to them. I'm not gonna lie to like, I don't know who the fuck Pavement is, but it seems like all these albums we've been doing on the '90s and like going through, like, look, me and Trevor doing all this looking up and shit. Like they've been on every damn one, and I don't know who the fuck they are.
Yeah,
Fucking
like
Pavement.
honestly, I'm probably gonna do a deep dive into Pavement after this because like I have no idea who they are, but I
Yeah, and
still
everybody
feel like
keeps saying like they're a great band and like all this shit, and I'm like, okay, we gotta figure out who this is because really couldn't really couldn't tell you. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I really don't have any more albums like off the top of my head. You know,
yeah.
like to throw like an honorable mention. I'm sure there's some. I'm sure there's one that I'd be like, damn, I should have done it. Like I forgot it. Oh, I got you. The debut, which is a banger album, My Own Prison from Creed.
Whew,
That's another one.
good
I
Lord.
can't believe I almost forgot that. What a fucking album that is, dude.
You're not wrong, dude. That was a
Like
fantastic album.
everybody talks about Creed now, like they have a resurgence, but like go back and listen to that first album. Like dude, it's so good.
Oh, it really
Recording
was.
session. The verdict is in. But like, dude, like just the four singles off there, My Own Prison, Torn. Oh, like one of my personal favorites. What's this life for? Like, what a great song. One, one. The day is dawning. Like, dude, I don't know, fucking, like, what a great album that is. Um, hell, I don't know anything. Seven Dust, their first album. Shout out
I
them.
mean,
Like, that's a
I
good
mean,
album.
it was just a really good year for music, and I feel like this has definitely been one of the better years we've talked about for music. I mean, it may seem weak on surface level, but you do some digging, and you will not be disappointed.
Oh yeah, there's some really good stuff.
Oh yeah. But with that being said, I think that is probably a good ending point for part two of this. Um,
Yeah.
be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for listening. We highly appreciate it. And with that being said, we are Outskis 5000.
Uh, Jordan Love is injured. Rest in peace, Packer season. Uh,
RIP.
go Tigers.
Mm.
Suck that Tiger dick, bitch.
Suck that tiger dick.